Basil announces end of July extension. Road and Traffic Act enforcement to see bigger fines. And Mekeo betel nut producers regulating supply into Port Moresby.
This is National EMTV News with Merba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Wednesday's news. Communications Minister Sam Basil has announced another extension to the SIM card registration exercise. This time, Tuesday, July the 31st is the new deadline for when all SIM cards must be registered. The previous deadline lapsed on April the 30th. According to Minister Basil, he has made the decision to extend the deadline after careful consideration. He has also reiterated that failure to complete SIM registration will see telcos slapped with hefty penalty fees. In December, the deadline for the mandatory SIM card registration exercise was extended to January 23, 2018. But on the eve of this deadline, it was further extended to April the 30th. Since April, several court cases were initiated by aggrieved parties, challenging the validity of the registration exercise and subsequent SIM deactivation exercise. Minister for Communications, Information Technology and Energy, Sam Basil, this afternoon announced a further extension to the SIM registration exercise. According to the minister, his decision based largely on concerns raised by the PNG Council of Churches over the lack of support shown by mobile telcos to assist in their efforts to support this exercise.
And I believe that by 31st of July, we will do no further extension, but we will cut SIM, unregistered SIM will be cut as per the instructions from NICTA to the operators.
The decision to extend the deadline yet again was a result from concerns raised by several sections of the community, and particularly the PNG Council of Churches, over the lack of action taken to register many users, especially in rural areas.
Had our mobile operators given us the same undue support that NICTA had given us, we are confident, we are sure, we are positive that we would have been able to reach out to the rural majority that have not yet registered their SIM cards.
According to NICTA, the telecommunication industry regulator, with this new deadline, they are confident more mobile phone users will be able to have their SIM cards registered, particularly in rural areas, utilizing the reach of churches.
There does not seem to be any significant movements in the statistics, in the numbers of subscribers who have registered.
The announcement today also provided an opportunity for 2 of the 3 mobile telcos to reaffirm their commitment to the SIM registration exercise.
And our 6,000 staff are, I would say, 2/3 of them are in rural Papua New Guinea. Because why that is the hardest, we understand the effort that customers have to go to get registered.
And we're also working hard. We also got in touch with the PNG Churches Council, and we'll be working more together with everybody and NICTA. We've been working closely with NICTA as well.
With this latest extension, it would have been 2 years since when NICTA first commenced the exercise for the compulsory registration of SIM cards in the country, something which, according to authorities, has taken far too long to complete.
Mobile companies are working together with the Council of Churches, and I believe that in the next 2 months, before the cut-off date on July 31st, I believe that the partnership will be stronger.
Yesterday, the National Court ordered that Medang Open member Brian Kremer's court proceedings to ban the deactivation of SIM cards be withdrawn entirely. But Kremer says the fight is not over for him. He said he plans to apply for a judicial review of the court's decision on the grounds he was not given enough time to apply for a stay order. He feels that the matter has quickly turned political.
Would. I mean, and I think NICTA and I think the CEO and staff are quite reasonable persons, reasonable people. I made my inquiries. The problem with this issue is it's become political, to be honest. That's the problem. So yesterday, the arguments by NICTA's lawyer, Tiffany Twivy, raised the issue of, and relying on affidavits, said this issue is important because members of Parliament raised it on the floor that they wanted to have everyone registered so they can take prosecution against those people sending threatening messages. I mean, I get threatening messages all the time. So I'm not prepared to deactivate to 1.4 million people's phones just so I can catch someone or track someone down who sends me a threatening message. That's just ridiculous.
The Road and Traffic Act of 2014 will be effective as of the 1st of June 2018. Road Traffic Authority Chief Executive Nelson Terma says a significant enforcement will be the increase in fines. Mr. Terma says RTA, police and provincial authorities will work together, and he also urged the public to be aware of the act.
It has taken years for the implementation of the 2014 Road and Traffic Act. Mr. Terma says the act will be strictly enforced. He says the fine for traffic law breakers has increased twofold.
Under the new rules and regulations, the fees and charges have been increased. So people need to have access and be aware of the consequences if they happen to be caught by our enforcement officers, by police or RTA enforcement officers.
The 2014 Road Traffic Act comprises of 5 major categories. Mr. Terma says RTA will be backed by police, MVIL and provincial governments through MOUs. He says RTA will delegate its powers to provincial governments in enforcing the act,
so that they can RTA can delegate the functions to the provincial level, so that they can perform at the provincial level, in their own provinces. So really, there is no time. We've got 2 more weeks, and provinces need to, fast track the MOU and RTA has to sign with them.
The head of RTA has also urged the public to access the 2014 Road and Traffic Act and be aware of its penalties. Terma says the public must not ignore traffic rules.
We will also make available the new Road Traffic Act, a copy of the new Road Traffic Act plus rules and regulations. So the information is available. The general public are encouraged to have access to those information. But most important thing is we are informing the general public that the new rules and regulations will come into effect on the 1st of June 2018.
In less than 16 days, the 2014 Traffic Act will be effective all around the country. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, the Road Traffic Authority will be hosting an enforcement trainers training. Chief Executive Nelson Terma says this is for the enforcement unit. He says the trainers will then impart the training to provincial enforcement officers. It will commence next week in Port Moresby,
where traffic enforcement officers and trainers of the police right throughout the country will be here going through the training for rules and regulations under the new Road Traffic Act 2014. So the trainers of the police will be here, and then they will be collecting all the materials, and then will be going back to their own respective provinces, and then they will become train the trainers at the provincial level.
The NAS Fund Contributors Savings and Loan Society Limited announced a net profit of 2.1 million kina for the year 2017. NCSL General Manager Vari Lahui said membership decreased in 2017 but gradually increased at the end of the year and the beginning of this year, with now a total membership of over 100,000. Meanwhile, 2017 also saw an increase of lending to 70.6 million kina loaned to members.
ESL's annual general meeting was held in Port Moresby this morning and live broadcasted on FM 100 to allow contributors across PNG to listen in. General Manager Vari Lahui, speaking to members at the AGM, said 2017 saw a net profit of 2.1 million kina. NCSL's total assets increased by 9% to 157.9 million kina, and membership increased by 18%.
Our profits slightly grew. So we paid more in terms of interest to our members, which we topped up at the end of the year after the audit of our accounts. So in general, it was a good year. We saw a lot of growth in our balance sheet. We also saw growth.
2017 also saw an increase in loans. Mr. Lahui said it was encouraging to see members making use of different NCSL services.
To achieve good growth in the member savings. And what we have also seen is good growth in the loan portfolio. So more and more of our members are borrowing against their savings. And that's contributed to the increased revenue on interest income from our loan portfolio.
In 2017, the Savings and Loans Act was amended. NCSL told members that they have taken the amendments into account and are ready to comply with any changes.
Required to register under the Companies Act and lodge. This is for all the savings and loan societies. So we register under the Companies Act, and we are required to lodge annual returns every year.
Meanwhile, Mr. Lahui announced to members NCSL's move to go paperless, introduction of online and mobile transaction, and a debit card that may be finalized at the end of the year.
Members don't need to carry cash around because we got social issues, security issues. So electronic and technology advances is the way to go in terms of providing good, efficient services to our members.
Adelaide Sirox Kari, National, MTV News.
Since last month, betel nut growers from Mekeo in the Central Province have been controlling the supply of the nut into Port Moresby. In a day, over 3,900 bags are sent to Port Moresby, but that number has been reduced so that growers from Mekeo can also benefit financially from their produce by controlling the supply of betel nut.
In this tough economic period, even betel nut vendors and suppliers are struggling to make ends meet. According to NCDC Commissioner and Northeast MP John Cowper, 20 million kina is rotated in Port Moresby, and half of this money is circulated within betel nut trading circles. Currently, there is a surplus of betel nut in the city, and growers from Mekeo in the Central Province have taken measures to help themselves financially by controlling the amount of betel nut they supply to Port Moresby.
About 2,940 betel nut bags are supplied daily, and when you look at it weekly, it's about 20,040 betel nut bags supplied to Port Moresby market. In a month, we are supplying about 83,000, and in a year we are supplying about 1 million. So our people have decided that we control the betel nut by reducing the number of betel nut so that the market itself in Port Moresby is also, the supply is low.
Despite betel nut being a thriving business that supports many locals, the field that betel nut markets create has seen NCDC facing numerous challenges over the years in trying to control its sale in the city. Mr. Evie says controlling the supply of betel nut will also help NCDC in its efforts to control the imposed betel nut ban.
We looked at the figures. We found out that 11,000 is still a lot of betel nuts. So we looked at taking 3 days in a week, mainly Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. So 3 bags per person, 60 bags per truck, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, about 8,700 betel nut total will be supplied to Port Moresby market. In that way, we think that we're going to help NCDC.
Stacey Yallo, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. We go for our first break now, but we'll be back with the day's other stories shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. A workshop was conducted today by the National Capital District Commission on the controlled betel nut ban for this year. The betel nut ban, which was introduced 5 years ago, has seen NCDC facing numerous challenges. The workshop was to bring all parties involved in the betel nut business for an open dialogue with NCDC for a beneficial way forward for all parties.
Retailers, wholesalers, growers, PMV owners and Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary were among stakeholders at an open discussion about controlling the ban of betel nut this year.
We have smugglers going right down into the villages, into the boy plantation.
The betel nut ban, which was introduced 5 years ago by NCDC, has seen many challenges and has also led to numerous deaths. It is an ongoing issue with NCDC in trying to tackle, especially with the rubbish betel nut generates and the health risk in betel nut spittle. Yearly, millions of kina is spent alone by NCDC to clean up betel nut spit and rubbish in public places.
With the governor lifting the ban now, we want to involve as much stakeholders as we can, including business houses, government, private businessmen, including those that are vendors on the street, the PMV growers, the vendors association, including the central and provincial government administrations, and to look at what were the loopholes, what went wrong, how didn't we address some of those issues. So this forum provides an opportunity or venue where all of these stakeholders will have their concerns.
For many growers of betel nut and transporters in Central and Gulf provinces, it is their cash crop, one that they rely on to support them. While they are also faced with challenges of being harassed and intimidated by law enforcers when transporting betel nut, their hope is to have a proper bus stop where they can drop off their betel nut and return home safely.
The main challenge I face is at present, NCD police is operating 45% capacity only. That's the reason why we are struggling with trying to control major crimes. If we cannot control major crimes, how can we help in white man policy?
The discussions today gave opportunity for many stakeholders to air their concerns with NCDC and other relevant partners in order for a proper plan to be developed for Controlled Boy Ban 2018.
Well, a lot of many concerns raised, but one that really stood out was that we have to create a dialogue and a partnership with all stakeholders, and that is very, very important. Creating a strategic partnership where every business in the city, every government office in the city, has a say in a way how we should be able to control betel nut in the city.
Stacey Yallo, National EMTV News.
NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Pero Drano says police have viewed the CCTV footage of the attempted robbery at Vision City 2 weeks ago and have identified the suspects involved. He says the known suspects have been staging other major crimes in the city and they are working around the clock to apprehend them. The attempted robbery left one guard injured when he was caught in friendly fire and another injured by the attempted robbers during their escape. An acting appointment has been made for the head of the country's mining industry regulator. Mining Minister Johnson Tuke today announced the appointment of Nathan Mosusu as acting managing director for the Mineral Resources Authority following the recent departure of Philip Sama. According to the minister, the new acting head of MRA takes the helms at a time of great challenges for the mining industry, which remains a key economic revenue generator for the country. Mining Minister Johnson Tuke today called a media conference to announce the acting appointment for the position of Managing Director for Mineral Resources Authority.
On behalf of my family, the people of Kanantu, and the ministry, I would like to congratulate you. This is a corporate decision which has enabled you to be in this capacity. It is not my decision.
Mr. Nathan Mosusu takes over the MRA over the next 3 months, which have been described as challenging, especially with recent legislative changes affecting the financial status of MRA.
And as a responsible institution, we have to be seen to be adhering to government regulations. So far, it's been good. We've been having discussions with finance, and if there are areas that the authority lacks, we are sure that we will implement those areas.
Whilst acknowledging these challenges, Mr. Mosusu has also outlined the MRA's key priorities as regulator, with MOA reviews top on the agenda for Kainantu Gold Mine as well as the Pogera project in Enga Province for this year.
At the moment, we'll be continuing on from where the former MD left, and the areas that I will focus on the short term to progress discussions on MOA reviews, and one particular one is the Kainantu one that's really pressing at the moment. We'll have to continue discussions around Wafi Golpu and Frida projects. These are critical projects for the government, and the government wants to deliver these projects.
People in the Namatanai district of New Ireland will now have access to a medical evacuation service. This service is a joint understanding between Namatanai district and Manalos Aviation. Namatanai MP Walter Schnobelt says this is one of the DDA's resolutions to improve health services and serve the rural areas.
Namatanai district has a growing population of over 80,000 people, which make up 6 of its LLGs. Most of them are inaccessible by road. The launch of the Medivac service is a major milestone for the district. Police Minister Delta Wong was given the honor of cutting the ribbons and see this service commence. In 2016, EMTV visited Conagil, a remote government station in Namatanai. The health officer told EMTV News access to health facilities is very difficult for nearby communities. This is an area the Namatanai district hopes to address with the Medivac service.
Transporter police. Before we are long independence, police double check.
The Medivac will also include search and rescue missions. It will cost the local district authority 40,000 kina in monthly bills. But the local MP says it is a valuable investment with human life at the core of this service.
So if I cannot run, I will walk. And when I cannot walk, I will crawl. But I will not stop to make sure no matter service.
Mr. Snowbelt also made mention of the reopening of Namatanai airstrip after more than 20 years of closure. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
A man who has an informal business in Madang says the national government is ignoring this sector. Michael Gunn sells art and craft. He says the market in PNG needs to be promoted at a global scale. This can create opportunities for people like him who depend largely on the daily revenue generated from a day sell.
Arts and crafts always handmade. In PNG, the skills developed over centuries continue to be passed on. It has allowed many Papua New Guineans to produce things like necklaces, armbands and other artifacts which are sold in towns and cities. Michael Gunn says most of the crafts sold are good revenue earners, but they need markets. For those engaged in this business, tend to sell their produces at an affordable price.
Plenty of something all crafts they are very expensive to sell. Because in Papua New Guinea, people are well making some money now, and people are no legally price. Suppose outside market, them by America, one block is coming here, and by 1,000 plus.
Gunn also emphasized the need for the Tourism Promotion Authority to look into this vital business that has the potential to lure more tourists into the country. He adds that small to medium enterprises in PNG can also be boosted, thus helping most Papua New Guineans earn an honest living.
So government must look more long, online long, Tourism Promotion Authority must look more na make something. Tingin mo ligli mo something come up.
Gunn says the rise of law and order problems in Madang are also another factor affecting people like him who depend largely on the sale of their arts and crafts. Adding maintaining law and order in the province is one way of encouraging more tourists into Madang.
And by bringing plenty of investors or tourists coming to Madang. Madang is a national place.
Masalubis, National EMTV News, Madang.
Still in Madang, Madang police have confirmed the death of a young man in the early hours of Monday. The deceased was identified as the son of a prominent figure in the province. Police say the deceased sustained injuries to his head and neck. According to a police brief at around 2 and 3 a.m. on Monday, the deceased was attacked by a group of men who were armed with a knife and an axe. Investigations into the death of the young man has commenced. However, police are yet to confirm whether any suspects have been identified. To Port Moresby province and landowning clans in Leh are threatening to close down 5 fish canneries if the government does not review the existing agreements that govern them. They've given the government 7 days to respond. The clans, which include the Ahi and the Busulum, say they've been cheated of development benefits. Since the agreements were signed 4 years ago, they have received 5,000 kina per year for the 5 portions of land they own.
If the landowners have it their way, Majestic Seafoods, Frabel and 3 other fish processing factories will be forced to shut down next Tuesday. The threat comes after 3 years of complicated wrangling with the government and the companies over landowner benefits.
We have not been given any spin-off for the factories that have been built on our land. Majestic, Frabel, number 1, and I think Haile Seng and Dong Wong are yet to come. We have been promised some money to be given to us, but they have not honored the promise.
Today, the landowner company, BUP Development, said they're calling on the National Fisheries Authority to review the existing agreements so that they receive more in terms of landowner benefits.
They signed an MOA of a 99-year lease, and at 99-year lease they pay only 1,000 kina annually, and that was the thing that instigated the whole demand that came up.
After 4 years, it's now become clear landowners got a bad deal. The landowning clans are paid a total of 5,000 kina annually for the 5 land portions they lease to the companies. The deal was negotiated by the provincial administration at the start of the projects. Apart from a 2 million kina premium payment made several years ago,
Nothing.
the landowners receive little else. They're also not party to agreements between the state and the fish processing companies. The landowner company has since issued a 7-day notice to the government to come to Ley for negotiations. They're also demanding 20 million kina in compensation, as well as a review of the memorandum of agreement they signed with the companies. Scott Waide, National MTV News, Ley.
Salamander residents in Ley refuted accusations made by an NHC officer that their titles were fake and they had obtained it through fraudulent means. Spokesperson Alphonse Palang says most of them, who are public servants, applied to purchase the houses under the National Housing Scheme, which began in 1986.
These residents were responding to an article that was published by one of the daily papers last Thursday. The statement was made by an NHC officer, Matthew Limu, who also claimed to be the acting provincial manager. He said the titles issued to the residents at Salamander and other areas in the city were fake and had to be returned to the NHC. He also said most of the titles were obtained on the pretext that the properties were on vacant land portions.
Because I accuse him of holding fake titles, duplicate titles, people obtain him through fraudulent means. And people I'm not setting records there. We have all the records. Housing Commission, do you have any records?
Alphonse Palang is one of these residents. He is a former public servant who has been living in Salamander for more than 10 years. Mr. Palang and his neighbor Ivan Gawi applied to purchase their houses after an NEC decision to sell the houses to sitting tenants. This was for houses that were not built within the land area of a state institution.
Same decision sale of institutional houses not on institutional grounds to be sold to current tenant, and that's we.
In 2015, they received their titles. The NHC tried evicting Mr. Palang and other residents, including 3 widows.
The Land Department, long answer question, and the Solicitor General is acting according to the NEC decision, whereas to the contrary, the Housing Corporation saying, this is our house, we'll charge you rent, you don't like it, get out. Otherwise, you return the title to us, you come and pay us everything, then we'll release the title back to you.
Yesterday, the NHC officer Matthew Limu apologized for his statement. An officer from the NHC headquarters said today that Limu has no authorization to release such statements, and his appointment, quoted in the media as the acting provincial NHC manager, did not follow due process. Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Ley.
Samarai Murwa MP EC Henry Leonard has retained his seat. MP Leonard's victory was declared at the National Courthouse in Alatau this week. The court ruled in favour of the sitting MP, despite a motion filed by lawyers of the former MP, Gordon Wesley, disputing the recount. He was flagged by his supporters at the courthouse. Mr. Leonard says justice has prevailed and work must continue for the delivery of services to the people of Samarai Murwa. Here with National MTV News, we go for a break and be back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National MTV News. Now to an update of the story about the sausage factory we've been covering. The Ley City Council Health Division Inspector Paul Wiwi today confirmed that no permission was given to the owners of the company to resume operations after a closure notice was given. Despite denials by the government, our MTV News group investigating the story found out yesterday that the factory was still in operation. The company's manager said that an officer from Ley City Council Health Division told them to operate, but he would not name him.
Speaking to MTV today, Health Inspector Wiwi said he was unhappy about how other officers from the division were handling the matter of the sausage factory. Wiwi is currently on leave. He issued a closure notice to this Chinese-owned sausage factory on the 17th of April. But the sausage factory was found operating again yesterday when we visited the factory yesterday following public complaints. The company's general manager, Hugh Chan, told us that they were told to operate by an officer
from the Leh City Council Health Services Division, but he wouldn't give us the officer's name. The company was ordered to close by the Health Division after a third inspection led by Paul Wiwi. The inspections showed that the company's sausage factory waste was being dumped into a nearby waterway. They didn't have a grease trap, and they don't have a permit to operate as a factory. It was also found that they changed the initial building purpose as a warehouse into a factory without consulting authorities. The division's health inspector Paul Wiwi said if the company continues to operate, it will be illegal and the division will have to issue a permanent closure notice. Wiwi said he will find out which officer gave them the authority to operate without an official notice while he was on leave. Meanwhile, the 2 Mile community are calling on authorities of Leh District and Moresby provincial government to act quickly. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
From royal wedding disarray to devastation for the bride-to-be, with US media reporting that Meghan Markle's father is just hours away from undergoing urgent heart surgery. It put a dark cloud over final preparations for what should be Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's happiest day.
Well, just a few days out from the big royal wedding, you'd have expected all the headlines to be about what's happening inside Windsor Castle here, all the finer details, the preparation, even dress speculation. But instead, this is what the Brits are waking up to here this morning. Headlines talking about Meghan Markle's father and his heart surgery. A wedding without family drama is rare. But the scorching media spotlight is making Meghan Markle's current on-screen saga an epic. And it's a celebrity website, TMZ, breaking the fast-paced twists and turns. Its latest bombshell.
We have some breaking news into us now about Britain's royal wedding. TMZ now reporting that Meghan Markle's father will not attend the ceremony on Saturday after all.
The 73-year-old today telling TMZ he's undergoing heart surgery tonight after suffering a heart attack a week ago. Kensington Palace has yet to comment, but the bride-to-be is said to be devastated. The latest shock development was preceded by an extraordinary series of events. Thomas Markle had earlier pulled out of the wedding after claims he staged these paparazzi photos.
This is just an extraordinary development in a 24-hour period, but the Markle family has behaved rather appallingly from the get-go.
But then texts from his daughter Meghan Markle seemingly convinced him to attend.
I hate the idea of missing one of the greatest moments in history and walking my daughter down the aisle.
Mr. Markle's medical setback blamed by one of his family on the intense media attention.
When he calls me panicking on the freeway because he's in a dangerous situation, being followed by 7 or 8 cars, you know, I think there have been examples in history of how dangerous that can be.
Harry's mother, Princess Diana, died in a Paris tunnel after a car crash involving a high-speed paparazzi chase. So should Kensington Palace be doing more to support Mr. Markle?
Kensington Palace, well, they might have done a bit more, but very difficult for them, given that Thomas Markle is a very private person. Maybe Meghan should have taken the lead on this one.
So just 3 days out, Meghan Markle has to decide who will walk her down the aisle. Her mother, Doria Ragland's still the most likely contender.
She has an incredibly close relationship to her. She's the only person in the family who hasn't tried to sell her out.
And who else but TMZ filming Doria's departure for Los Angeles airport to be the only member of Meghan's family who'll be with her on her biggest of days.
To the Middle East now, and Palestinians have been burying dozens of dead after a day of violence over the US embassy opening in Jerusalem. America is holding steadfast in its support for Israel, despite global condemnation of the use of deadly force.
Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner bidding Israel farewell today after opening the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, fanfare and fireworks. Their work now behind them. They also left behind this. More clashes throughout Gaza and the West Bank. In Bethlehem, Israeli forces firing tear gas from vehicle-mounted launchers. In Ramallah, we saw protesters hurling stones with slingshots in a running battle that lasted for hours.
This is now the front lines here. The Palestinians are throwing stones. The Israelis responding with tear gas and the occasional rubber bullet. There have been several injured, no fatalities.
In Gaza, 2 protesters were killed today, but it was more a day for grieving the 60 killed here yesterday. A baby suffocated by tear gas, laid to rest. They draped their flag on the little body. At other funerals, anger and defiance. The Trump administration standing 100% behind Israel amid calls for an investigation of the violence. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley rejecting any suggestion that Israeli troops may have used excessive force.
No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has.
Then, as the Palestinian ambassador prepared to speak, Haley walked out.
Here with National EMTV News, Trukai Sports is up next. We'll be back with the details after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and the Connie Tigers team of Port Moresby has shaped many players who've gone on to become PNG Kumuls. Today, Lay Biscuit Company showed their support for the team with a sponsorship of 50,000 kina.
The Connie Tigers team will become a feeder club to the Lay Snacks Tigers in the PNG NRL competition. A few players and coach Stanley Teppen from the Snacks Tigers team have had stints with the Connie Tigers team. Lay Biscuit Company has thrown in a sponsorship of 50,000 kina to help Connie Tigers in the Port Moresby Rugby League competition. Lay Biscuit marketing manager Lacey Ori says their sponsorship is to help Connie Tigers become a force in the POM RFL like it was many years ago.
And also carry the Tigers and Lay Biscuit brand as well towards their success. It's a large sum of amount that we will be giving away to one sporting team, but we know a lot of youths, especially around the Waigani, Murata, Tokara area, will benefit.
Apart from the 50,000 kina, Lay Biscuit also donated 3 sets of uniforms and training gear. Connie Tigers chairman Tommy Angau thanked Lay Biscuit for their sponsorship.
Also received other training gears like tackling pads and t-shirts, so we are very grateful for the sponsorship.
Angau says with the club now becoming a feeder team to the 2017 PNG NRLC Premiers, the sponsorship from Lay Biscuit acts as a motivation to the players in the team. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Still on Rugby League, SP PNG Hunters forward Adam Korave has been released from the team. Korave was released due to personal issues.
Korave was released and has not been in training for the past 2 weeks. When asked if his contract was terminated, this is what Hunters assistant coach Nigel Hukla had to say.
Adam Korave for personal reasons, so to attend to his personal issues, and we hope that he can sort his welfare out, and then we'll see how we go from there. As it is this point, I'm not privy to discuss any contractual obligations on players, but he is not part of the training squad at the moment for, again, personal reasons.
Since the beginning of the season, a few players were released from the Hunters camp. So far, 26 players remain in camp, with 4 players nursing injuries and 2 yet to make their debut.
We've got William Mone, who's been with us still doing his thing, and we hope that opportunity will come up for him somewhere between, who knows, now and then. William Mone, also Clyde's there. I think they're the only 2 boys at the moment who have yet to have a game with the Hunters, but I'm sure their perseverance, and if they show the right attitude over the next coming weeks, and who knows, throughout the whole season, they may be able to get a run.
They face the CQ Capras this weekend, and with little time to prepare, they will be having short training sessions and rehabilitation.
Yeah, short turnaround is always one of those things. We look at our draw and try to make sure that wherever we have a short turnaround, a lot of it will be short sessions, looking mostly at rehab and recovery to allow our players to be as fresh as possible towards those games. So.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket, and PNG Baramandi Mahurudai is a finalist in the SP Sports Award Male Athlete of the Year category. Speaking to MTV Sports, an emotional Mahurudai said he was surprised when he first got word of his nomination.
my family wasn't there, I wouldn't go this far. So yeah, thanks all of them.
33-year-old Mahurdai is one cricketer who caught international attention last year. With a total of 24 international matches under his belt in 2017, one of his highlights was during the World Cricket League Championship match against Scotland here in Port Moresby, where he bagged 63 runs off 54 balls during the chase of 204. That was also when they had only 5 wickets and 2 overs left in that match. This was a performance that helped the Boroughs advance to second placing on the World Cricket League Division 2 ladder.
Lots of singles there on the onside for the batsman.
I was nervous when I went up, yes. So after scoring runs or end of the game, all the nervousness was gone. I was feeling happy. Yeah, I was proud at that moment. It's a privilege to play in front of your people. Yeah, so firstly, when I went out to bed, the crowd, I had my tears. I was wishing to play in front of my people. So yes, it was an honor to play in front of the country and also the family.
A humble man, yet proud of how hard work and training had helped him pull off some great performances. And even though this was not the first time for Mahuru to be nominated, the news still surprised him.
I was surprised by my brother that he told me that, hey, you are the nominee. So are you serious? And he said, yeah. So I was feeling happy because to be nominated in the Sportsman of the Year again. Yeah, I was so proud. I was proud to be nominated.
The all-rounder, who recently competed with his teammates at the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe, is still eyeing some more international events.
Some of my goals is for me to play in the Cricket World Cup, any different formats. Yeah, this is one of my career goals, and then also the SB Sports Award.
And for now, training continues as they prepare for the 2020 East Asia Pacific qualifiers in Fiji next month. Meanwhile, contending for the Male Athlete of the Year award as well is SPPNG Hunter Aseboss and Commonwealth Games weightlifting silver medalist Mora Baru. Dinero Strico, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere. Trukai Sports continues after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. PNG High Performance Strength and Conditioning coaches Mei-Ling Chung and Jackie Treverts are leaving tomorrow to join coaches from the Pacific in Vanuatu for a coaching clinic. Nationally trained in the country, both coaches say they are looking forward to sharing their experiences with colleagues from other Pacific Island countries and bringing back new experiences. The program will be spearheaded by Chris Nunn, a representative of the Oceania Paralympics.
And also just be able to meet with the other Oceania coaches and athletes so that we can come together and share ideas and discuss. I guess the ultimate goal of this workshop is to make sure that we increase our knowledge as technical knowledge as coaches, and to also establish a long-term view of the athlete development. So as a strength and conditioning coach, I hope that that's something that I can bring back and help better our athletes here.
I'm confident to go out there and learn from other coaches as well, and also Chris Nunn, who is one of the best coaches who runs this workshop for the coaches. Yeah, I'm hoping to bring back good skills of coaching to come back and help with the athletes. Some areas that I want to improve on would be my coaching skills towards the athletes.
To Netball and Port Moresby Club, Credit Corp Sparrows acknowledged the new executives of the Port Moresby Netball Association during a recent press conference. CC Sparrows Club President Lawrence Lahari was at hand to make congratulatory remarks on behalf of the club.
Congratulations to the new Port Moresby Netball Association executives that just got voted in. Linda Ligo is the new president. On behalf of the Sparrows Netball Club, we want to say thank you to congratulations to the new Port Moresby Netball Association executives.
To rugby abroad, and 12 years after making his debut, Canterbury Todd Basil is finally a full-time Black Caps contracted player.
31-year-old is the only newcomer on the list of 20, with Jimmy Neesham and Neil Broom dropping off the list altogether. Astle believing the year-long contract is reward for some solid performances during his limited matches for the national team.
It's that recognition that you're in the top 20 players in the country, and for me that's a really rewarding thing, and where that pride comes from is having worked away at it for a long time and been on the fringes and close to getting one of these, so it's nice to now have one.
With first choice spinner Mitchell Santner still recovering from a knee injury, it's likely Astle will add to his test and one-day stats when the Black Caps take on Pakistan in Dubai in October.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. We go for a break now. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A quick look at the weather in the Highlands region. Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabe can expect cloudy weather with morning fog over the next 24 hours.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's how it is in the news tonight, the 16th of May 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.